Hill says she doesn't know exactly what made her and her family sick. Players and fans braved that heat he was talking about to show up to Texans training camp today. The suspect said that he shot in self-defense, and for a while they couldn't find him. Now to Egypt, where at least 38 people were killed. One Miami Heat player from right here in our area is working to give back. On Super Bowl Sunday, Reliance Stadium here will be the center of the football universe. But when it comes to all the events and festivities leading up to the big game, it's Discovery Green that'll be El Centro. Not even any reports of smoke inhalation, and that's still really hard to believe because I got to tell you, even being a few hundred yards away, that smoke at its peak became really intense. Didn't inform parents or students about Friday's incident, and they tell us that they didn't because it was an isolated incident that happened after school. When you think of an international incident, you probably don't think of an NFL ring as the cause. Just pick 6 numbers and all of your troubles will be gone tomorrow. I thought he left Hollywood. What's up with that? And I have no idea if he's ready for Beyonce's Jelly. At least you'll have Johnny Football back on the field this fall. Maybe. Real men wear pink and purple. Boom.
Oh, yes. Nothing like a Texans victory to offset the hangover that many of these guys are probably going to wake up with tomorrow morning.
I am a huge fan of all things space, you know, and I think that everybody every day should take a moment and look up. You know, that happened to me one time. I hit a half-court shot. LeBron James came over. We did the kid and play dance. It was awesome. But then the alarm clock went off, and then I had to go to work. But I've been there. The first person ever to cross the Grand Canyon on a tightrope and without protection. What'll stick with me most is those who say that they were inspired by Kyle, and they never met him. A man came into his store claiming to be a police officer and tried to rob the place with a gun. What that robber didn't expect was that both clerks behind the counter would be armed too. He was cutting from the base of the tree, which caused it to topple over. She says the man came up to her asking for her phone number, but what he really wanted was her phone and all her cash. Guzman disabled the bus's audio recording equipment, then used tape to cover the cameras. Because Johnny Manziel left early from Texas A&M to go to the NFL, this might be the closest thing he'll ever get to a graduation party. All-Star Weekend means all-star parties and countless celebrities. And as you can tell from all the scoring tonight, it seems the only people playing any defense this weekend were local bouncers trying to keep fans on the other side of the velvet rope. This weekend, we learned if you're not on the list, you ain't getting in. Here's what else we learned. In the last several days, we learned Houston can go Hollywood. We learned 50-year-olds throw the best parties. Happy birthday, MJ. We learned Kobe and Vanessa Bryant have kissed and made up, and that there's still love for the glove, Gary Payton. We learned if you have 3 models, you gotta have 3 bottles. We learned Nas and comedian Kevin Hart have a lot in common. And we learned Terrell Owens loves the camera. All right, we already knew that one. We learned from Chameleon Air that you can't be riding dirty when you're throwing up the local 2 sign. We learned if you take a picture for Wolf Blitzer, he'll take one with you. Mark Cuban, too. We learned that big gold chains are back in style. And you say he's just a friend, Nelly? We learned nobody rocks the short tie like Adrian Peterson. And only LeBron can get away with wearing shades indoors. We learned the only thing worse than Houston traffic is Houston traffic on All-Star Weekend. We learned that the largest mall in Texas can be shut down in 140 characters or less. And finally, we learned Clutch City still belongs to Hakeem. What you see behind me is just a part of the fertilizer plant that exploded across the street here, a neighborhood of homes. Just look at this damage. This weekend, for the first time since the blast, neighbors were able to come home and see the devastation for themselves. Jessica Kapovic and her husband had days to prepare themselves for what they'd see inside their home.
We knew that it was going to be totaled.
The young couple from West lived just a few hundred yards from the fertilizer plant that caught fire and exploded Wednesday, but say they weren't home when they happened.
We're young, we don't have children, so for us, you pick up your valuables and it's not as bad. You know, for some of the people on the street that have been on the street for 50 years, it's probably a different story.
Surprisingly, we found that wasn't the case.
Well, in this house, 50 years.
Right next door, Ed Sikora wasn't worried about what he lost to the explosion, instead focusing on what he still had.
I told my wife right after it happened, she was a little sad. I said, honey, We are not hurt, not anything. Everything else can be taken care of.
For people here today is about trying to get back to normal as much as they can. One big help, students were able to return to school for the first time since the tragedy. Reporting in West, Phillip Mena, KPRC, Local 2.